Will be a presentation by staff regarding streets conditions for 2020. Your name and address for the records. I'm going to have to get me a bag to carry all these handouts. So. You got propaganda?
Good morning. I'm Dwayne Davis, City Engineer, Port Arthur. What I've passed out to you, we're going to discuss the funds and remediation reconstruction costs on our street projects. What I passed out, you probably see a green highlighted sheet, and then you should see a beige. About the fifth sheet? Okay. What I've done, I've separated the two handouts into a green heading, which represents remediation streets, which are less than 1,000 linear feet, and is typically an asphalt street, which is completed by our street division. Also, we have a beige heading, which represents reconstruction streets, which are greater than 1,000 linear feet, and is typically a concrete street, and is constructed by a contractor. All of these streets, if you look to street conditions, which is in the middle, all of these streets are rated between an 8 to a 10, are very poor when these were initially rated. Also, each of the pages, the council districts are highlighted in yellow. If you were to go down about halfway the page, also you will see the linear feet in that particular district. And this is the criteria which we based our summation on. Okay. The red and gray you have in your packet, it's the same thing what we have on the monitor. What we have here on this page 2 of the PowerPoint, if you look across, we have districts, street length or linear feet, and percentage of street total. And if you were to go down in those columns, you will see the 4 districts, the linear feet in those districts, and also the percentage of the total of the 39,478. And this is just for the remediation. Go to page 3. This is reconstruction. It's the same format. It's just dealing with the reconstruction streets that we have. As you can see, these are bigger numbers. We're dealing with reconstruction. And now, if we go to page 4, we talk about the budget. On remediation streets, we have a $4 million budget. Using a percentage distribution, if you to take each of the districts, look, 1, go moving to the right, 2, same thing, moving to the right, you will come up with the total of $4 million is what was earmarked for the remediation streets for 2020. And also, if you look at percent of street lengths, you have that's in each of the districts. And we still have the total street length, which is as moving to the left. We have that number. Now moving to page 5, we get into reconstruction projects, which was a $10 million budget. It's the same format. Districts are to the left. If you're moving toward the right, we have the length, percent of street total, and also allocated budget. And that really covers it. Just a note, on this presentation, it was based on a summation of the package I mentioned earlier. However, the final outcome of the remediation and reconstruction funds is left up to the City Council. That concludes my presentation.
Councilmember Kinlaw.
Thank you. Where's your data that actually supports which streets, and when did you meet with the councilmen to determine the amount that they were going to be giving on each district? So I'm looking at this again, and I'm noticing District 1 and District 4 again for this particular year on streets surpass any other district. So, I mean, where's the data that supports that which streets actually are given a tier number that you were going to sit with the councilmen? And I don't know, I was waiting on the data. Last time I spoke with you 2 weeks ago, we were going to be talking about what streets that I need to come back to you guys and discuss, because as a councilman in a particular district, we all have streets that needs to be done. And if it's going to be monies that's going to be given to districts, we should be pretty much evenly. I can't just say, as District 3 councilman, say, well, other districts are getting repaired, and I sit back until they catch up. Who thought of that, and when did we discuss that? But it looks good for the councilmen actually getting the monies to repair and reconstruct these streets. So give me an answer on that, because I was waiting on the data to be provided to the City Council. All right.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
And
Speaking to the mic, please.
I'm sorry. Good morning, Council.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what we did for this particular second round of reconstruction and remediation was to find out from our previous, I think, a few years ago, we did a whole, how would you say, evaluation of all of the streets. And at this point, this is the streets that we had recognized to be at the very worst conditions in Port Arthur. And it wasn't, I don't think it was really decided of how we're supposed to divide up all of the funds. So that's what you guys are going to let us know, what we want to, which streets to do first. So once you guys tell us which streets to do first, then that's what we'll do.
So it's my understanding you're going to come before the council again, and then we're going to have to sit with you once we get the numbers, because I knew we had the book previously. 2 years when I came on the council, we got a book that showed streets. But since then, we had an X-ray truck to actually go through the city,
yes,
and to determine the severities of the streets.
Correct.
But, as a district councilman, I really have to, I'm just getting hit just like every other councilman that sits up here about streets. And I can't afford to sit back where the other districts, and it's not fair. It's not evenly, because the first round was, I sat back and say, well, look here, we're going to have some of the streets that really needs to be done in Port Arthur. But as a councilman, I have to fight for my district as well. So that's what I want to do, and that's what I hope that we would get this information from you with the X-ray data.
The X-ray data will be coming in January and February.
Middle of January.
Okay.
It should be completed, and once that is done, then we can reevaluate.
Got
like
it.
I said, this streets are from years ago,
Right?
And we wanted to obviously get started right away.
All
but
right.
if you want to get started right away, we could do this once and figure out how we want to proceed for the second round of streets construction.
Okay, we're talking about next month. We're getting data from the X-ray.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mayor pro-tem.
Councilwoman Moses.
Thank you. Dwayne Armando,
Alberto.
question. I know that these, Alberto, I'm sorry, what did I say? Oh my gosh, I had a brain freeze. It's Armando. Anyway, Alberto,
Yes.
So this is from the data that we collected a while back.
Yes.
My question is, now we can compare the data and the analysis that you have here to the different districts can compare those numbers to how they're rated to the X-ray truck. You're just so I can understand I like to understand for myself. So this is data that we've had that was compiled probably early on, a couple
Yes.
of years ago, and this is where the streets were rated at that time.
Correct.
And so you're proposing that they can either select their streets from this information here, and wait for the analysis from the truck.
Yes.
That will be going out, or compare to see if they come out with the same or in the same neighborhood with those numbers.
Well, in just to be clear, whenever we do this X-ray trucks, it actually will let us know whatever you guys decide. I mean, it's depending on everybody has a different lengths of
Right.
sizes of
Right.
their district. So, are we going to try to decide on which ones are the worst streets, or are we going to try to decide which ones are the how many people in that actual particular neighborhood or whatever? So those variables can be put in this program and let us know how we're going to proceed from there.
I know that this rating for remediation and reconstruction was prepared early. I think that, and my question, the truck that we have paid for to go out to X-ray these different districts, the comparative, we'll be able to compare those numbers
Absolutely. We can
to
do comparison.
what we did a couple of years ago. I just want clarity for myself so that I understand how this is going to go forward
Yes.
in the different districts, so that it can be fairly distributed among the districts. So basically, just for my clarity, because I learn in a different manner than everybody else, but I do want to know how the program and how this is going to work. So remediated streets, and it'll do that. I like the way you have it divided out. I like the way you have the reconstruction streets, but I do think that the machine that we've paid for to go out to examine the streets, if it compares comparatively with the data that we have, will be backup to what you all have now. We can make, how fast do you need us to make decisions to move forward? We have money allocated, but do you have work allocated? Let me ask that before the truck comes into play. You say in a month the truck will have the analysis done.
Right.
But do you need us to move forward, the different districts to move forward?
Well, we always want to get
started with work
right away.
That's
and-
my question. We don't want to hold up progress.
Correct.
In the different districts, battling about what needs to be done. We need to move on streets. So, are you looking for us to at some point give you clarity on moving
Well, the
forward
clarity
with this?
is, are we going to try to decide, divide it out all evenly, like 2.5 million per district for reconstruction and 1 million for remediation? Are we going to do it evenly like that, or are we going to try to do it by how many streets you have per the city? So, like I said, like everybody in your district doesn't have the same amount of roads.
Okay, and
So-
and thank you, because I want clarity. I know that everybody in the districts are streets and they're a mountain,
Right.
whatever, but clarity on how the operation. Ours is we have dollars allocated, and we don't want those dollars to sit and then we're not moving to make something happen based on who got so many streets. Because this is not about who got streets in district. It's about getting the streets done and having the money being spent wherever the streets are. We ride all over the city, and it's terrible. So we don't want to sit here waiting politically on just numbers of I got more in my district, I got more in my district. We need streets done. So what do you need for us to move forward so we can be clear? And what do you need for
Well,
us to make a decision?
That's exactly what I need. I mean, I need to.
You need what?
I need a direction from you on how we're going to divide the money up for
the different
streets.
districts.
Correct. How are we going to divide it up per how much roads we have for that particular streets? Are we going to try to do it all evenly per district?
Okay.
Basically.
So we need to come back to you with that. That's what the council has been charged to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Then city manager, can you help us to address
I just
that?
wanna-
Dwayne, yes,
now,
I'm
I
sorry.
just want to make one correction. We said January for the IMS machine to finish. that's when they'll finish their field work.
Right.
Then they'll have to go in, prepare the report for us.
Right.
So they'll finish the field work, they said probably mid-January, depending on weather, because they can't run the truck in on slick streets.
Right.
So it'll probably be January when they finish the, the field work. And then they'll go to the deliverables with, the report.
And thank you for that clarification, because then we're waiting for something that we have a tool to kind of operate on some streets to keep the work ongoing without it stopping, and waiting on an analysis from the truck. We know we paid for that, and we're going to wait. We're going to get that, but to wait until that's a lot of lost time to not be able to move and getting some work done. So that's why I wanted clarity on, and I wanted it audibly to know how we would progress through and help you all to not just sit and wait to get streets done. So basically, we need to give you clarity on how to work this out.
Okay. On this.
City manager,
No.
I'd like for the city manager to respond
No.
on my comment.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
No one speaking unless I recognize them. So, right now, is not a problem. Okay, that's what we need to establish right off the bat. It's not a problem. The only problem we have is council member saying that the money should be split equally. Okay? Now, you brought up a fact of being fair. The councilman was talking about being fair. It ain't fair for a district to have almost 40%. Let's see, what was your percentage here?
Well, no.
No.
Wait. If you're gonna
Hold up. Wait a minute.
If you're going to sing
Point of order.
it's not a point of order when you talk about a particular district. Now, the data was provided. I asked, Mayor Pro Tem, I asked this 2 weeks ago. When are we going to get the data? I met with this gentleman. Berta was out, and I wanted to get the information.
Council member.
You're not going to single it out.
Kinlaw. Council member Kinlaw.
No.
I recognize you.
Right.
You want to speak, you put your light on. Well, you wait till I recognize you. No one interrupt you. You will not interrupt me or anyone else, okay?
Get to your point.
You got a point. No. The way we speak on this council, if you don't know parliamentary procedure, anyone can speak at any time if you say point of order in which.
Okay. Well, point of order, get to your point.
There we go. Now, what's your point?
My point is that I went to this gentleman 2 weeks ago. It was told to me that each district would get 2.5 to continue doing street. Am I correct, sir?
Wait a minute. Councilman Kinlaw.
Yes.
That's speaking. Okay. I'm speaking.
Okay.
Okay. A point of order is to
I know
say
exactly
that
what a point of order is.
All right, then you ought to understand when I say.
Get to your point.
Okay, so I'm speaking. Don't interrupt me again.
Get to your point.
Okay. Now, if we look at being fair, the fair way to do it is the way you all have done here. It's not about no council member trying to get no money. Okay? You got a part of the city that has few and small amount of streets that need to be fixed. Okay? And then you have a part of the city that has a large amount. In order to be fair with citizens in this city as a whole, the money should be divided in accordance to the needs in the district and being fair. And that's the way this was done. This is not about getting equal and saying, I want equal. It's about being fair to the city. When we set up here, we're supposed to think of this city. Now, it just so happened, District 4 is the largest district. The councilman mentioned about being fair to his citizens. I have a responsibility for citizens also. I don't want nobody to give District 4 no more money than any other district. But I want it to be fair and equitable. Now, I mentioned this before to you and Councilman Kinlaw and Jones in a meeting we had when that was brought up about how to divide money. When I said, when this program was presented to council, one of the questions was asked at that time was how we divvy up money. When the program was presented to us, the answer was in proportion with the streets. Now, the March 27, 2018, or the May 18, 2018, one of those meetings should be the meeting in which the street program was presented to this council. And at that time, and we talked about funding, I asked that specific question because I wanted to ensure then that we don't divvy this money up equally, because equally was not going to be reflective of the data. Now we could wait, which I don't see no reason to, because at the end of the day, what the examination, the next ray going to bring to the city is going to be confirmation of the streets all in bad conditions. Okay. However, when we look at this chart, okay, and citizens need to understand what we're talking about in order to understand what's fair, okay, for those who may not have seen it, just for remediation. Of the total miles that we have for remediation, is 39,478 for remediation. Now, the length in each district, in one is 7,400, two has 8,000, three has 5,000, District 4 has 18,000. Now, what do we gonna have $4 million for remediation. So we're saying that $4 million is fair that District 1 get 1 million, each district get 1 million. But when we look at this, District 4 has more than twice the linear feet. Now, this is not, I'm saying District 4 because that's what you determine in District 4. But basically, the 39,478 is a reflection of what we need to do in this city. So when someone says, this is not fair, it's a bad understanding. Because the only way we can make it fair is to use percentages, because if you use percentages, now you're saying that each district is going to get a set amount of money to do work in the district. Okay? Because, for an example, if I have 18,000, almost 19,000 feet, and I get 1 million, District 3 has 5,100. And they're going to get 1 million? That means that he can do 1/5 of what he has to do this year. But in District 4,
Mayor Pro Tem, point of order.
we won't.
Let's.
What's your
we
point?
can't. We can't.
What's your point?
If
Tell
you're
me
going to
your
continue
point.
talking and no one else can talk, and we got lights on, I'm trying to give the answer, and I waited patiently.
Okay.
But the point of order is that I was trying to say that when I met with him 2 weeks ago, with the first round of streets.
Wait a minute.
If you're
Wait a
gonna
minute.
talk,
Wait a
we
minute.
can't
Wait
get
a
our
minute.
point.
You're not. I'm speaking. If you got a point of order for me not to speak, the proper procedure, councilman, is say,
Well,
you can't speak. Now, you spoke. No one interrupt you. No one stopped you. And if you wish to speak again, you can do like you do. Turn your light on, because you will be recognized. But you're not going to continuously interrupt in this fashion. Follow the parliamentary procedures.
well, how long do you have
And
to speak if we're trying
Well,
to
no,
speak?
we don't put limit, because if we had
Well,
limits,
we don't
right?
have limits, so I wasn't through speaking then.
Well, you did. I called on Councilwoman Moses after you.
Mayor Pro Tem, listen. I have my light on.
You'll wait till you be recognized.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, as I stated and was telling you, I would only do 1/18th. So that's what you call not being fair. So we need to go back to one of these meetings. I tried to pull them up last night. Neither one of the meetings showed up, Sherry. I don't know why, but we could go back to the meeting. And during that meeting, it's discussed on how we're going to do the streets, that how we're going to divide money up, because that question was answered specifically. Now, sometimes we don't remember what we discussed, but like I said that in that meeting, it's not about what I'm saying or what I'm suggesting, and it ain't nothing new. It was presented to this council when the program was presented to us. And I asked that you go back and review which meeting that was presented, because this question specific was answered. And that is the answer this council agreed with at that time. Okay? And not only that, but it's fair. Let's see. Councilman 5, Kinlaw, Council 10. Okay, next online is City Manager Light.
Mayor Pro-tem and Council. The issue of resource allocation is always a concern of the council. Part of the process of getting the streets repaired is to go through a procurement process. Council must understand that we are in the month of December. It's going to take either 60 days or so in order to get that going. I have proposed a timetable here for you that every member sitting on this council from the 4 districts has an opportunity, if this is approved, to see some action almost immediately in their district. You have a list that's been provided to you. If you provide staff with the opportunity to go ahead and get a head start on this, we will see some corrective change and some action very early in the new year, if you want to see it. Okay. If not, it's up to the council now. It's up to you to decide whether you want to see that corrective action takes place very early in the new year. As I said, the procurement process is going to take some time. We're in December right now. Come January, you have another 30 days or more in order to start the procurement process for those streets. You're not going to see anything happen, but later on next year, I would like you to give staff the opportunity to make sure that whilst the resources are available, that the citizens continue to see that we take a very diligent approach by working on this. If you want to come back on it, let's come back on it, But I think this is a way of getting a head start right now, almost immediately. And then if you want to change gears when the data comes in February and March, and the data has provided a different opinion as to what we have, there is a good possibility of looking at it. But I'm just providing you with an opportunity right now to get a very early head start on this, because the new year is fast approaching, and I know that citizens are concerned that they want to see. There is no way we're going to spend $1 million in the next 90 days. Let's all be objective on this now. Even if I allocate $1 million to everybody, there's no way you're going to spend it in the 90 or 120 days.
Wow.
I am providing you with an opportunity to get a good head start with the winds that are prevailing in order for us to show some progress. But the decision is yours.
Okay. Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mayor Pro-tem. Unless I'm missing something, on the first round of the streets, we always allocated X amount of dollars. Am I correct? The first round?
Yeah, correct.
on this next round, if I'm missing something, then I guess I was sleeping at the wheel. We all supposed to receive 2.5 million each district for the second round of streets. Am I correct?
Well, that was what the understanding was, but like, you know, council needs to like figure out what they want to do because.
What did 2.5 million come in?
It was 2.5 because we had 10 million for reconstruction. So divided up into 4 districts is
Okay.
2.5 per district, and then 4 million for remediation and 1 million per district in that case.
Okay, well, that's what I was thinking. Why we going another direction? You know, and I mentioned one.
Well,
I mentioned in council meeting, and Mayor Pro Tem Doucet could verify this. I said, you know what? I said I believe in getting the streets that's in bad condition repaired first. I said if I have to give up some of my money in my district to fix some other streets in other districts that was worse than mine, I mentioned that in the meeting. Then I heard me say that. I said I'll do that. Yeah. You know, but then the other councilman said, "Don't do that, councilman. You know, get all your money you can for your district." Well, being a team player, I wanted to sacrifice for the whole city, where it was barely needed. Now we're at the point where just about every street, every district is bad. We all hurting. We all got people crying about their streets and their districts. So it was mentioned about 2.5 for each district. Get back with you, and what you told me, get the streets I needed in my district with priority, and let's work on those. Am I correct?
Correct.
So why are we changing? Why everybody going in circles now? Let's get the 2.5 to each district. Get back to the street that's most in our district that needs to be attended to.
Well, I think
first. Let's go from there.
I think the whole contention was, you know, I whenever we were doing this in the beginning, I'm not really sure how it was divvied up because from what I saw, it was divvied up kind of just like pretty evenly as far as districts. They have all a set amount of dollars for district. I mean, if you want to go forward or if you want to do it this way, where you know we have all of these roads, like you pretty much pick any road in the Port Arthur, and we need to actually do it.
We can discuss this here, you know, around and around in circles.
Right.
I'd like to see 2.5 allocated to every district, and let's work from there and get back with you, give you our priorities in our district. That'd be the most fair and feasible way to do this here, I would think.
We'll do whatever the council wants.
Next. 8. Ms. Caprina, Ms. Councilwoman Frank.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just want to remind council that yes, we all have districts, but we all are concerned about the whole city, all of the citizens. We're talking districts here, and I'm really missing what the problem is. District 4 has the largest street length, so how is it going to be done equally?
That's right.
I mean, some have larger districts than others. Right. So I guess I'm missing the point here. Why are we discussing this? I know.
Well, they have to.
Well, I get that part, but why are we discussing about I mean, it's here. It's here. Right. Street length. It's here.
I really don't know how to answer that.
I didn't even expect that.
Okay. Councilman Kinlaw.
Thank you. It's kind of, you know, I'm just shocked about it. I've been coming up to your office for the last 2 weeks discussing streets. Have I? Right. And I was told that at one time I was getting 2.5. Each council district was going to get that. It changed. It said, well, we're going to wait on the data. I waited on the data. I didn't hear anything. We're going to come. The next thing it was going to be that I'll be coming up to you with the city manager discussing what streets in the districts to be fixed. At no time did I ever said that I wanted this process to stop. At no time did I ever say anything other than what we discussed from staff and the city manager. Now today, it's like we all surprised about the fact that I'm so upset because this thing changed today. We got a list that we've already had, a binder. Each councilman, each councilwoman had this binder 2 years ago when I first came on council. Now, if we were going to use this data, why do we pay $96,000 for an X-ray truck that we got to wait and get numbers until February, March time frame? This is presented to me today. I would have been prepared for this. I already had these numbers. I already discussed these with prior staff. That's what I'm saying. At no time I want this process to stop. But I'm saying now it's brought to me today to make a decision, and hopefully we can make a decision as a cohort to decide which streets that we need to do and how much funding is going to be given to each district. When I talked to you 2 weeks ago, you said we're waiting on the data, and then we're going to have to decide, city managers as well, that we're going to have to decide on how we're going to give the funds to the district. So I'm not wanting to stop this process at all, because I get up, I get the phone calls just like every council person here about streets. And I'm not saying that we have to be lenient on how we get the data. No, I'm saying I'm getting direction from staff and city manager on what I wanted to do. I just spoke with you last week about this.
Well, the IMS truck, that's not stopping. I mean, we're continuing.
Exactly.
We're continuing with that.
Exactly.
The only thing with that, we're probably 60, 90 days away from getting that data.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's where
Right.
we,
So a filler was today was to get this information and say, well, the council, we have alternate streets that we can do to keep the process going. That's what was told to me today. I didn't get that from you last week. I didn't get that from the city manager last week. Today.
Well, like I said, the process is continuing.
Okay.
It hasn't stopped.
All right.
So
hopefully we can come to a consensus in finding out which streets and which district and how much funding that we need to divvy for the districts, because I'll be really interested to know if we're going to use this data, why did we pay $96,000 for an X-ray truck that's going to give you the same data?
well, that data that the truck is doing, that's going to update the.
Listen what I'm saying. We already had this 2 years ago.
Okay.
If we're going to use this data right now to do streets, and we pay $96,000 a couple of months for an X-ray truck to provide the same data, I'd be interested to know how the data is going to change. Thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Moses.
Thank you. Councilmember Kinlaw, I do understand what you're talking about. I think that the X-ray truck, to me, and since we're conversating on this topic, I think that the X-ray truck is going to provide the data to confirm. You have a starting point to not stop the process here with these streets, and then as the data comes in from the truck that we invested in, which we needed to confirm the data that was the analysis that was done by Armando 2 years ago, will come into compliance and come together. But I do believe that this, like you said, I hate that you were not aware that this information was available on the remediation and reconstruction of streets, but it just helps them to have an ongoing process, because we've said don't stop, and that this data can be used in the intermediary, from how I understand it, until the data comes in from the truck that will do the analysis, and that will give us, not delay the process, so to speak. So we need to keep moving. I think this is just something you can utilize again without sounding redundant in the intermediary, so that we can continue going on and not be held up by my streets in this district or my streets in that district or whatever, but continue doing the worst streets in Port Arthur. Port Arthur as a whole, we have, and as you know, and all of us know sitting here, we've all gotten complaints. We've all get complaints from every part, north, south, east, west, every street. Everywhere. They're torn up. So we can't afford to stop $4 million, $14 million, whatever's allocated. We just can't afford to stop. And this just gives you something to work with, as the city manager has confirmed, in the intermediary. We can make adjustments, we can make changes, we can come back as we get the data. If the truck has, and I think the truck is going to be very beneficial, but basically this just helps us to not stop the process. Get the bids out, get the bid packages done, get the work done, because we've complained so much about them getting streets done. And staying on top of people and even terminating people. So we can't get hung up now in this process on which districts has the most linear feet to be prepared. We really have to keep it moving, and mine is to work with staff. If staff is recommending that we do this, I cover the whole city. That's where I stand. Let's cover the whole city. I know that your districts are important, but I understand that the citizens are driving their cars and their vehicles down streets that are killing their vehicles, and we cannot afford to stop. That's my speech for this morning. We got to keep it going. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. First of all, Amanda, when you all, Alberto, I'm sorry. Been waiting so long, Alberto, just sitting here patiently. Thank God I got good patience. First of all, you all brought up about the 2.5 million to each district. That's a recommendation, okay? First of all, that's why I don't talk to staff talk to staff about making decisions, because you all bring us recommendations, okay? So it's not in cement that the 2.5 is supposed to be distributed to each district, okay? So again, the first time 2 years ago, this same format was brought to us as a council, okay? And that's what we're pretty much sticking with. Although a conversation came up about each district being fairly treated, distribute 2.5 million. That's just a recommendation from staff. The final decision is made up here. When you bring it to council, we discuss it. And in the discussions, we as a council come to a conclusion about the fairness and about what decision the council should come to, so everybody in the city will benefit. So everybody in the city will benefit. It's not a discussion about what district I should get this. It's about the whole city. Now, your recommendations, I didn't buy into it. I don't buy into, again, staff recommendations until we hear it from the full council. The city manager just said that we need to keep this rolling because we need to make sure we show that streets are being done. And we come back, he also said in a period of time we won't be able to spend a whole $1 million. So why are we complaining about the 2.5 when we won't be able to finish spending 1 million? So let's spend and take care of the streets that we need to take care of right now, like the city manager said, and anything else, discussions about funds, we can always come back to it. Okay, we need to show citizens right now that streets are being done all over the city, and we don't get caught up in my district or your district or the 2.5 million that you won't be able to spend right away because the city manager said you can't spend the whole $1 million. Let's get the ball rolling, keep the ball rolling, and then we as a full council will get in other discussions about how we should use the money. When the x-rays go over the streets, we'll find out more about what streets is damaged more than others. And then we can discuss those issues at that particular time. Thank you.
Okay. It's obvious that we've had a long discussion here, and I could see that everyone has think of a grave concern, and I think everyone spoke with respect to how sincere we are about fixing street and how important it is. And listening to what everybody's saying, I found out that everyone is saying, let's keep going, let's fix the streets. We can talk about other things. others. But I was the one that questioned this, and it was based on, like I said, when the program was presented to the council. I remember distinctly, and I wanted it to be fair. So that particular thing was not hard for me to understand, that if you divide the money equally, it was not going to be fair. Now, I understood that, okay? And one thing the council must be reminded of, if we're going to continue with the process and continue to do the streets, in order to meet with Public Works, we have to know how much money is available. So, contrary to some belief, we have to decide if we're going to divide this money proportionally with what the needs are, or if we're going to divide it equally. Because when we meet with them, they're going to have to know how much money we have. So we can't proceed with the 2.5, or we can't proceed with the 1 million, because when we go to meet with them, the streets we select going to be based on how much money is allocated. So basically, the presentation today was to show council by numbers. This is the way we break it down to equal and make it fair. So what's before council today is not all what we've been talking about, but say either we're going to do it the way staff is recommending to be fair, or we're going to just make it the same amount of money. So that's what's before us today. That's what they need directive today. So in order to move, are we going to move with staff recommendation on the division of the money in proportion with the streets, or are we not? So if we support that, that means when we do meet with them, they will know what we allocated, and you can take care of business. Unless we do that, we can't. No, it's a directive. You know, that's what they'll recommend to us. If we don't want it, then we have to tell them no. If we say we accept it, then that's what they're going to move with, okay? So that's what the request for us is this morning, okay? So we really just need a consensus on it. Do we move with that recommendation to be fair, or we want to change it? Consensus? Okay. Okay, so ready to move on? All right. No problem. Who wants to change it?
When you, Mayor Pro Tem, when you say fair to, you mentioned fair, okay, and when I mentioned fair, we said it wasn't fair. So how do you determine fair if we haven't got the data from the X-ray truck to validate these numbers?
Okay. First of all, the trucks, Councilman Kinlaw, it may bring back a degree of the streets, but it's not going to change the number of streets that need to be repaired.
No, that won't change.
So basically, what you have here is what you have identified in your district as being up for remediation or reconstruction. The only thing an X-ray machine probably can do at this point, and correct me if I'm wrong, is have a street that is under remediation go from remediation to the reconstruction line. And if doing so, it still won't impact on you as a council member selecting your street for remediation or reconstruction within your district based on what you get.
Yeah, but the funding would change because it goes from remediation to reconstruction.
Okay.
So it costs more.
Okay, but if it goes to remediation and construction, it also faces the same in any other district, okay? It might go from remediation to reconstruction in District 4. That's going to increase it. So what I'm saying is right now, they could continue to work because at the end of the day, whatever you get to select your streets now, you're not going to be able to get them all anyway. You're going to have to select them, and you only have X amount of dollars that's going to be allocated to you, so when you go in there, you do it. But the dollars we now want to understand, staff has done this, and percentage is all broken down there and it's broken down whereby it's fair and equitable across the board. That's why they did it. That's why they got the chart. So the council now is either going to say, yes, we want it to be fair to the city as a whole, or no, this district don't have but 18%, but we're going to give them 40% of the money. So that's what this is about, and that's what they did here. So now we all understand that. So now either we understand and accept it, or we don't. But the consensus of the council will give them a directive. So right now, from where everybody want to move on with this, and all. And if anyone don't, just say you don't. But then we'll have a consensus.
Mr. Mayor, pro tem.
I know we're not taking a vote. It's not a vote. I didn't say a vote. Anybody opposed, okay, could speak. It's not a vote.
Well, if you get a consensus, then you have a directive. It may not be a formal vote. There's no action item before the council at this time. You're being presented with a presentation, and you accept the presentation, and I assume that staff will come back with some resolution.
Okay, gotcha.
Submit.
All right. Well, I tell you what, then let's do that. That way we could stay within the parliamentary procedures and we do it correct. We won't do consensus. Next time we do it, you got your thing there, just bring back to in a form of resolution. We've had enough discussion on it. Everybody had what they say. Bring it to us as a resolution, we'll just vote. Okay? And if you bring that next meeting, we'll get it done. Okay?
All right.
All right, thank you very much. And boy, you woke everybody up on that one. Let's move on. All right.
The next presentation.